Hello, Cardinals. Welcome to our last lecture. So, as we wrap up talking about the Cold War, our next point to cover is that the space race was an important and interesting part of the Cold War that really helped the US and the Soviets also to build up our technology and our knowledge of what lies outside of Earth's atmosphere and get out into our solar system. Specifically, not to get super far, but just specifically to get on the moon. And the US was the first to do that. The Apollo 11 mission was successful, got on the moon, and there's a cool picture of some Bible verses that one of the astronauts, I think it was Buzz, brought onto the moon. And so, yes, I think two of the three astronauts that walked on the moon are believers in Christ, and it's pretty cool to read their reports about it. So that was the space race for those 20 years there. Then there was the U-2 spy incident, May of 1960. And I think we actually already talked about this, so I'm going to keep moving. And the Bay of Pigs, I think we talked about this one too. So basically, to review, Fidel Castro took power in Cuba despite the U.S. efforts to overthrow him. You can pause and take notes if you wish. We're going to keep going. And then this is some more information about the Bay of Pigs. I think this is a review. The Berlin Wall. Okay, so we will talk about this Berlin Wall that was built in 1961. Basically, the communists in East Berlin wanted to keep a very regimented communist society going on in that part of the city. They didn't want the people in that part of the city being influenced by Western or capitalist ideas or free ideas. And so they literally built a wall to keep their people in, to keep their people on the side of communism. So there were even weapons, landmines, barbed wire, people with rifles, that if someone tried to cross the Berlin Wall and to go into West Berlin, they would even be killed for that. So the communists literally imprisoned the people of East Berlin within their own city. You can pause and get some of these notes here. And it's always good in history, and as we do this last lecture, it's good to look at yet another primary source. A primary source is what do the people making history actually say to each other. And this is in regards to the Cuban Missile Crisis, October of 1962. So Khrushchev of the Soviet Union wrote letters to President Kennedy, and basically Khrushchev said, if the U.S. promises not to attack Cuba, then the Soviet Union will take the missiles away. And so you can read this letter here. I think it's good to actually read primary sources. You can pause it, read the letter. And now we begin to talk about the Vietnam War. So like the war in Korea, the Vietnam War essentially was, the country was divided, North and South Korea. You don't hear that talked about today because now it's just, North and South Korea, yes, but North and South Vietnam, the country was divided, and you don't hear that talked about today like North and South Vietnam, it's just Vietnam. But back at this time, there were communists also in the North, and the South was trying to be democratic and trying to get their freedom. They had been a French colony, but they were trying to learn how to have their own government. And very influential communists led by Ho Chi Minh from the North were trying to sweep in and take over the South as well. And to tell you some more about Vietnam War, our involvement as the U.S. was because of the U.S. policy of containment. Already we were involved in Vietnam in the 1950s in the way of financial aid, advisors, and 500,000 soldiers. Our goal was to keep Vietnam as a country from embracing communism. Now, to give a little backstory on Vietnam, in the early 1900s, one of France's major colonial holdings was this resource-rich portion of Southeast Asia known as Vietnam. The Vietnamese people